Good afternoon. My name is Christian Sery-Ble, and I am the president of Smyrna Africa and Zinaza Biomedical International. Last year, in August 2009, I sent a correspondence to the General Secretary of the United Nations, His Excellency Ban Ki-moon. This correspondence was also sent to Mr. Barack Obama, the President of the United States, as well as to the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, and the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. The correspondence was also sent to several stakeholders of peace in the world, namely the ambassadors of the United Nations Security Council and the African and European Union. The correspondence pertains to the situation in Cote-D'Ivoire. It's also a set of recommendations to bring about peace in the world, because we believe that all coup d'etat are a criminal act of terrorism. And so, in light of our world campaign for the universalization of the norm of democracy, we believe that it's time for all the stakeholders to get involved in this process to change the paradigms of human behavior and international relations. The recommendations that I submitted to the Secretary General are still valid, although some of them applied partially. But it is important that the resolution hearing, the recommendation hearing, be taken seriously if we are to build a safe world, safe Africa, safe world for everybody. If we have to preserve humanity, it's very important that this recommendation be taken seriously. So I'm going to read some aspect of this, some excerpt of this address to give you a sense of the depth of this stress, this correspondence. And you'll also understand why things are not moving forward in Cote d'Ivoire and why they should take a different turn. The lives of millions of people are involved in the good and judicial application of these recommendations. This recommendation will save the lives of millions of people. And I hope that you take the time to listen to it carefully, and meditate, and truly see how you can individually participate in the implementation of these recommendations. Excellency, it's an honor for me to extend my sincere gratitude and compliment to you for the noble and admirable work accomplished by UNOC in my country, Cote d'Ivoire. I'm writing to urge the United Nations, the Security Council, and the leaders of the world to restore order in the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. Without established order, there should be no democratic elections held in Cote d'Ivoire. Excellency, the latest UNOC report shows the true signs of progress in Cote d'Ivoire. But in actuality, this progress is comparable to the movement of a sinking ship that has run out of fuel in the middle of an ocean, trying to patch up the multiple holes of this huge ship, or waiting for it to reach the shore on its own will be a waste of time. This ship is Cote d'Ivoire, and it needs a huge, objective, and realistic rescue mission. Now, The Ouagadougou's agreements have their merit. These agreements, initiated in good faith by Cote d'Ivoire's President Laurent Gbagbo, have enabled President Gbagbo to ease up the tension, to defuse the crisis, and to peacefully regain control of the country. Please note that President Gbagbo was democratically elected during the 2000 presidential elections after spending over 20 years in the opposition. President Gbagbo has never attempted to gain power by way of coup d'etat. President Gbagbo is therefore, according to Sery-Ble Africa, an honorable and exemplary political model in Africa. The philosophy behind the Ouagadougou's agreement proves clearly his political wisdom and grandeur d'esprit. Excellency, a political leader of that stature deserves the support and assistance of the world to impact history for the good of humanity. Although the initiatives that led to the Ouagadougou's agreement were commendable and greatly appreciated, one must admit that the mediation have now reached their limit, as they will never lead to the organization of transparent presidential elections in Cote d'Ivoire. It is time for the United Nations and the international community as a whole to capitalize on the momentum created through the Ouagadougou's agreement and to restore a placid democracy in Cote d'Ivoire. This will require a courageous and undoubtedly sincere leap beyond Ouagadougou's agreement, embracing and applying the true principles of democracy in Cote d'Ivoire. This bold advance will require that there should be no presidential elections in Cote d'Ivoire until Mr. Sery-Ble and his rebel government have stepped down and the members of the Force Nouvelle have surrendered to the International Criminal Court. Mr. Sery-Ble and his Force Nouvelle rebels are a group of terrorists and should be treated as such. Nowhere in the modern democratic world are murderers compensated for their action with high official positions. Cote d'Ivoire is a democratic country with a long history of peace and prosperity. Therefore, we intend to abide by all democratic norms in our country. In fact, if we fail to do so, what value will we be bestowing onto our future generations that those who bypass peaceful means of negotiation while killing innocent victims gain access to the government of their country to plunder the economy of their country? If we remain passive, what guarantee do we have that these odious and murderous scenarios will not happen again? The fact that the rebels supervise the election does not guarantee anything. These corrupt are no different than the thief, criminals, and murderers who are held on trial by the judicial system in other modern democratic states. Why should Cote d'Ivoire now enjoy the same standard luxury? President Gbagbo did what he could, just as President Henri Konan Bédié did what he could when the same rebel came to spoil his presidency. But the rebels have not changed, and there are no indications that they will change anytime soon. There are no indications that they will lead the country to peace, because they are so comfortably holding the population hostage. I personally can no longer linger passively in face of this situation of injustice. This is why I'm asking for your help, Excellency, and that of the other world leaders to put an end to this entire situation once and for all. Mr. Sery-Ble and his Force Nouvelle rebels must be apprehended, confined and tried before the International Criminal Court, where they will, number one, undergo thorough clinical psychiatric evaluation and rigorous psychiatric and psychological treatments. 2, be tried for war crime on the charges of raping children, force feeding children with tons of fresh pepper, and other unthinkable things. Those people, these children died. Children who had nothing to do with it. There must be a charge for raping pregnant women and killing their unborn children with machetes and extracting the fetus using bayonets, raping and spreading sexually transmitted infections to both female and male students, kidnapping children and their families, and killing innocent, drinking their blood as sacrificial war rituals, dismantling families, embezzling large funds and public funds by illegally collecting over 40 billion francs a year. That is approximately $80 million per month in taxes on all vehicles traveling to and from the north of the country. These embezzlement schemes have been going on since 2002, when the rebels started the war. Not only did the rebels deceive the nation by collecting fraudulent taxes, they are still plundering the economy of the country by receiving executive government-grade salaries as if they were legitimate government officials and administrators. Despite this series of embezzlements, the rebels did not contribute to the development of the regions they have occupied for the past 7 years. The rebels resorted to violence, atrocities, and death to claim new elections, and now that they are in command, they are destroying the lives of millions of people and are plundering the economy of a country profusely. Our cocoa and cocoa and coffee are being shipped to other countries to fuel their rebellion. Well, those crops are being shipped to another country that does not grow this type of crops, are now fueling the economy with our own goods. Our gold and diamonds and everything else is being shipped everywhere else by the rebels, bleeding our economy. Excellency, these behaviors are indicative of the signs and symptoms of serious mental illnesses and psychiatric conditions. People who present these types of symptoms and conditions do not go free in other countries. They are rather committed to psychiatric yard or imprisoned because they are a danger to society. And there is nothing wrong about going to a psychiatric yard. Judges, lawyers, doctors, people of good moral also go to psychiatric yards. They go there either because they are overwhelmed, distressed, depressed. Some of them go there because they are accused of certain misdeeds. Where they are found not guilty, they are released. How much more people who have killed and claimed having been at the origin of these killings for their own purposes. We have videotapes and DVDs where they actually testify in claiming ownership of this atrocity. And I'll show you some pictures later. So this problem is a matter of public health, a matter of public safety, economic survivability, and financial survivability. It is a problem of great magnitude, Excellency. It shouldn't be taken lightly, and therefore the resolutions taken previously should be totally annulled. We do not give a knife to someone who has hurt so many people with his finger. Neither do we give them the right to oversee public safety and to manage the finances of the country. Mr. Sery-Ble and his Cote-D'Ivoire rebels must be apprehended, confined, and tried before the International Criminal Court on the charges of illegally forcing their ways at gunpoint into the different government administrations over the past 7 years without prior substantial qualifications necessary to run a government or to manage national projects and programs they did not put in place. They should be charged for depriving intellectual rights to the researchers, engineers, and architects who have spent their life conceiving projects and programs towards the development of their country. These rebels are embezzling public funds and promoting large-scale poverty, all in clear violation and deliberate disrespect for human rights. My work has generated hundreds of millions of dollars, and 6 ministries under the leadership of Mr. Sery-Ble have plundered my work. The work was done for the youth. I did this work after 20 years of hardship here in the United States. And many other people may have suffered similar problems. This cannot be condoned. This type of activity cannot be condoned either by the United Nations or by the international communities or by another country. When someone spends his lifetime working toward the development of his country and to take care of his own responsibility, his family responsibility back in the United States and in Africa, when someone works hard to help the youth of Africa, it is unacceptable that a group of gangsters come and steal it, and yet they get the crown and they go ahead of the United Nations to continue. They must be tried at the International Criminal Court. They must be tried for their act of bioterrorism against the people of Cote-D'Ivoire. The rebels of the First Nouvelle have intentionally amplified the degradation of the environment and endangered the lives of millions of Ivorians by enabling the dumping of toxic waste and thus promoting the spread of disease, unemployment, social unrest, and the hindrance of the social and economic development of the country. I'll show you a few of the pictures. Since the advent of the rebellion, there's been so many environmental disasters that led to the pollution of our lands, to the disruption of social life, and to the increased prevalence of many diseases, environmentally related diseases. And so many children have suffered as a result of this. This kid, Salam Ouedraogo from Burkina Faso. His father probably migrated to Cote d'Ivoire, or his mother. They were living in a poor compound. The toxic waste was dumped not far from where he lived, and his face is now showing all type of abrasions, and who knows what else psychological, neurological problem may have. His skin is all burned out. We have the case of these people here. These guys, his life is over. The kids here, their life will be compromised for a long time because we know that environmental pollutants are endocrine disruptors. This woman here may be kicked out of her house because her husband may not want to see her anymore. So this problem is multidisciplinary. This kid here ended up with so many developmental problems. His feet, his fingers, and everything are gone. He ended up with only one testicle. And when someone gears up like this to clean up the environment, it is clearly indicative of the innocuity, the nocivity of the substance he's working with. And this happened in Cote-D'Ivoire only after the rebel took over. We've never seen this before. So the rebel have greatly contributed to the disarrangement and the restoration of social instability, causing so many problems to the people. So therefore, they can be trusted. The act of bioterrorism is also of a great magnitude. I showed you the problem that little Salam Ouedraogo is facing. There are so many ramifications. His exposure and the exposure of the Ivorian people and the gases of Ivory Coast, of Cote d'Ivoire, are facing serious health-related problems in the long run, because environmental pollutant can cause so many collateral damages, leading to cancer, respiratory diseases, and many other physiological problems. And these symptoms or conditions can be passed on to next generations. So it is a problem of great magnitude. What have Mr. Sery-Ble and his force nouvelle done for the development of Cote d'Ivoire prior to hijacking the government? What have they instilled in the past 7 years that qualifies them to lead, organize, and supervise the presidential elections in Cote d'Ivoire? Where are we going with these ignominies? Where are we going with these ignominies? The electoral system proposed by the rebels, estimated to cost well over 200 billion CFA, which is about $400 million US, is the most expensive electoral system ever implemented in Africa. This money is being spent to organize some elections in Africa where people have no access to clean water, food, education, and basic medical care. In Africa, where people don't have access to housing. This money was plundered. In fact, this costly electoral system is not reliable, and it is a constant source of stress, suffering, and constitute a potential mass grave for the Ivorian rather than being a liberating solution. Take, for instance, the current enrollment system. This system has led to countless cases of fraud, precluding millions of Ivorians from individually enrolling themselves to vote in Cote d'Ivoire or elsewhere, in Europe, in the United States, and many other countries where they could vote. The system has, however, allowed foreigners to potentially postulate on the electoral listing. In fact, millions of people have been excluded from the enrollment process and will not take part in elections either because, number one, there were no enrollment centers in their immediate areas, 2. The petitioner did not have the means to afford having their birth certificate notarized. 3. The petitioner could not find any original documentation to prove their identity after the rebel had destroyed all their documentation during the war. 4. The census agent who did not have a sample copy machine on site refused to use the original copy of the petitioner's birth certificates. The petitioners, poor villagers for the most part, were asked to come back with their own copy or to forget about registering altogether. 5. The petitioner was sent back on numerous occasions either because the enrollment center were opening late in the day or closing early in the afternoon. But most importantly, many petitioners were driven away by the arrogance and rudeness of the census agents. They didn't have a copy machine, a mere $25 or $50 copy machine, having spent $400 million to organize a revolutionary election, democratic, transparent election. After killing so many people and disrupting the lives of so many people, they invested. They couldn't have the basic necessities to make sure that this system runs smoothly. Everybody was just stealing, robbing the government. It was an opportunity for them to enrich themselves. And these census agents, who obviously did not have the peace and the utmost interest of the country in mind, were already brewing terror to discourage the voters who, in their view, did not seem to rout for their candidates. This discriminating, arrogant and despicable behavior displayed by these census agents stemmed from the assurance conferred to them by the immovability of the rebels from their governmental positions until after presidential elections. These ministers, the government of Sery-Ble was said to be not movable. So as long as there was no election, they would have stayed until Jesus came. They would remain minister for lives and destroying the lives of so many people. How can the United Nations endorse this type of arrangement? Some agents went even as far as opening up a fraudulent enrollment center in June 2009. They did it in Harlem, New York. They did it for the purpose of enrolling foreigners who later would be paid to vote for the candidates of the rebels. I saw it with my own eyes. I went there and I saw foreigners sitting there. I spoke to them. Now, if those rebels had the audacity and arrogance to open up a fraudulent enrollment center in Harlem, it is clear that they did it back in Ivory Coast and elsewhere. And the fact that they used a birth certificate set a stage for failure, because thousands of birth certificates were produced to enroll fictitious candidates. And all the candidates were involved. Where are we going with these ignominies? Are these the signs of innovation and progress the rebel brought in Cote-D'Ivoire? Are these the successes expected from a $400 million electoral system? And besides